Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lauren, you may also call me Lo, and today I am going through all of the book series that I am currently in the middle of. Lately, I've been a little bit overwhelmed by all the series that I've started and planned to continue but haven't continued. It feels like I've been picking up a lot of new series or like starts to series without kind of prioritizing sequels for series that I'd like to finish. So I decided to make this video, A, because I really enjoy watching these videos, and B, because it's a way for me to kind of track where I am now in terms of all these series, and it was a way for me to kind of like force myself to remember all the series that I've started. So without further ado, I'm basically just gonna go through all of the series chronologically based on when I started them. Unfortunately for me, there's only one series that I'm like fully caught up on, meaning that I've read all the books that are out, and that was very easy for this particular series because there's only one book that's out, and that is Elantris by Brandon Sanderson. This is a series that Sanderson plans to continue, but obviously right now it only has one book in it, and I read it. I absolutely loved this book. I actually read this before I started BookTube, and I gave it 5 stars. It was my first Brandon Sanderson, and I'm eagerly awaiting the next book because I absolutely loved Elantris. All of the rest of the series that I'm going to talk about in this video are series where there are published books that I haven't read yet, which is unfortunate for me. And most of these I've only read the first book in the series for, which is extra embarrassing, but here we are. I'm trying to hold myself accountable. So the first one, much like Elantris in multiple regards, is A series that I started before I started BookTube, and B is a series by Brandon Sanderson, and that is the Stormlight Archive. So right now, this series includes 4 books, which are The Way of Kings, Words of Radiance, Oathbringer, and Rhythm of War, as well as 2 novellas, Edgebringer and Dawnshard. This series is ongoing, and there are 6 more books that are supposed to be coming out. The only book that I've read so far is The Way of Kings, and I gave that 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. And the only reason I haven't continued this series is because the books are all over 1,000 pages long, and it's just quite the undertaking. But I will get to them. I really hope to read Words of Radiance this year, which is something that I talked about in my mid-year book freakout tag, which I posted last Sunday. It should be the video directly before this one. The next series is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Right now, this series includes 4 books: A Court of Thorns and Roses, also known as ACOTAR, A Court of Mist and Fury, also known as ACOMAF, A Court of Wings and Ruin, also known as ACOWAR, and A Court of Silver Flames, and 1 novella, A Court of Frost and Starlight. This series is also ongoing. There are 2 more books expected to come out. I read A Court of Thorns and Roses in January and gave it 4 stars, and A Court of Mist and Fury I also read in January, and I gave that 5 stars. I'm not even gonna say I want to read ACOWAR soon because that's how I feel about each and every one of the series in this video, but I am hoping to get to it shortly. The next series is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. This series includes 4 books: The Bone Season, The Mime Order, The Song Rising, and The Mask Falling, as well as 2 novellas, The Pale Dreamer and The Dawn Chorus. This series is also ongoing with 3 more books expected to come out, and this one, technically I haven't started. I did read The Pale Dreamer, which is the prequel novella to this series, and I gave that 3 stars, but I do plan to actually start this series, so I decided to include it because I've read something from it, I guess. I do have yet to get my hands on The Bone Season, but once I do, I will read it, and I'm very excited too. The next series that I've started is Pet by Akike Emezi. This is another sort of weird one. This one includes Pet, which I read in February, and I gave that 4 stars. And then later in the year, Akike Emezi came out with another book in this series. which is a prequel novella called Bitter that follows the main character Jam's mother, whose name is Bitter. So I'm including this in this because I do want to get to Bitter, and technically that does make this sort of a series. And I don't think that there are any plans to release more books in the series, but who knows, I wasn't expecting Bitter to come out. But I was very excited when it was announced. The next series is the Greenbone Saga by Fonda Lee. This series includes 3 books, Jade City, Jade War, and Jade Legacy, as well as 1 prequel novella, which is called The Jade Setter of Janloon. I believe this series is complete, but you never really know. So far, I've only read Jade City, and I gave that 4.5 stars. The next series that I want to talk about is the Singing Hills cycle by Nhi Vo. This series basically consists entirely of novellas. All the books are about 100 pages long, give or take. There are 3 out so far: The Empress of Salt and Fortune, When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain, and Into the Riverlands, which comes out later this year. This series is also ongoing. There are 2 more books that are supposed to come out after Into the Riverlands. And so far, I've only read The Empress of Salt and Fortune, which I read in April, and I gave that book a whopping 5 stars. The next series is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Right now, this series includes 6 books: Red Rising, Golden Sun, Morning Star, Iron Gold, Dark Age, and Lightbringer, which comes out later this year. I believe Lightbringer will be the last book in this series. And so far, I've only read Red Rising, which I read in April, and I gave that 4.5 stars. The next series is The Legend of Orisha by Tomi Adeyemi. I initially thought this series was a duology that included Children of Blood and Bone and Children of Virtue and Vengeance, but evidently there's a 3rd book expected to come out, which doesn't have a name yet. But I read Children of Blood and Bone in May, and I gave it 3.5 stars. Last but not least is the Skyward series by Brandon Sanderson. This series includes 4 books: Skyward, Starsight, Cytonic, and Defiant, which is expected to come out in 2023, and 3 novellas: Sunreach, Redawn, and Evershore. I read the first book in this series, Skyward, this month, and I will talk about it in an upcoming vlog pretty extensively, but I really enjoyed it, and I am so excited to continue this series. That is it for all the book series that I'm currently in the middle of, or at the beginning of, for the vast majority of them. If you're new here, please consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I put out 1 bookish video every week, sometimes 2, if I can pull it off. If you're still here, thank you so much for being here. I always really appreciate it, and I will see you next time.